This is the brand new Amflow PR Carbon with a removable 800 watt-hour battery, full carbon frame, the new Avinox M2 or M2S motor with 150 newton-meters of torque and 1,500 watts of peak power in that boost mode. And the crazy thing about this e-bike, it's starting from 4,499 euros. Let's check it out. What is going on, electric riders, and welcome back to Sam's Bikes. And this is my review of the brand new Amflow PR Carbon, which I'm predicting could be the most sold e-bike for 2026. And riders, like always, we're going to go super deep in this review, and there are timestamps in the timeline if you want to jump forward. And riders, before we crack on with the review, a massive shout out to Topic, the long-term sponsor at Sam's Bikes. Without Topic, Sam's Bikes does not exist, full stop. I absolutely love all their tools you see in my studio. It's like I've fully decked it out with Topic. Love all their stuff. And right now, the pump I'm absolutely loving is the Nano Shock Pump. This bad boy is 56 grams, fits in your bum bag or your backpack. Take it out on every ride because I'm fine tuning my suspension out in the trails because I'm testing a lot of e-bikes. And I love this because it has like a dual valve connector and you have zero loss of air pressure. You exactly know what you're putting in your forks and your shock. Love this product, highly recommend it, and a massive shout out to Topic once again for sponsoring the channel. Now onto the brand new Amflow PR Carbon, which is a full carbon frame. It's rolling on mullets, but is 29 compatible. We've got 160 mils of travel up front and 150 in the rear. The Amflow PR will be coming with two motor options. The Avinox M2 with 110 newton-meters of torque and 1,100 watts of peak power. And in the boost mode, 125 newton-meters of torque and 1,100 watts of peak power. And the also brand new M2S with 130 newton-meters of torque and 1,500 watts of peak power. And riders, get this, in the boost mode, it goes up to 150 newton-meters of torque and a whopping 1,500 watts of peak power. Coming with a removable 800 watt-hour battery, available in 4 sizes, weight starting from 22.9 kilos, and prices starting from 4,499 euros for the bike that you see in front of us, the Amflow PR Carbon. So let's check out the specs of this bike, because I think it is incredible value. So we've got that 800 watt-hour removable battery. We have the new M2 motor. We have basic Fox suspension, which actually is very good out in the trails. It impressed me. Then you have Tetro brakes, which are kind of like TRP because Tetro are doing the TRP race products. These brakes are very good, very powerful. We also have a SRAM wireless gears, the S1000. We have 155 aluminium cranks, aluminium bar. We got a 210 dropper, alloy wheels, good Maxxis tires. And riders, the confirmed weight of this bike right here in a large with pedals is 23.9 kilos. And I think you would agree with me, riders, the overall package of this bike with these components for 4,499 euros is definitely the story here. And I think it probably is going to break the market this year. So not only is it super aggressively priced, not only does it have the most powerful motor in its class, it also has the most adjustment points for geometry. So let's check out the geometry numbers in a large in the PR, which I've been riding. And riders, please note that the geometry numbers are a little bit different from the PR Pro to the PR. And that's due to a higher stack height on the PR. But just so you know, the frames are exactly the same. So we've got reach 470 millimeters. We've got stack height 64.6 and the head tube angle 63.3, 63.7, 64.1, 64.5 and 64.9. We've got a seat tube angle of 76.4, bottom bracket height of 353 in the low and 359 in the high, and a chainstay length of 440, 444, 448 and 452. So yes, riders, this is a hugely adjustable bike. And also, it's quite easy to go down a rabbit hole and get a little bit confused with your setup. But for me, what I did, so I rode it in the stock setup, so 64.1, and the chainstay 440. Now, for me, that was very playful, very agile, what you want from a trail bike. And if you're a fan of the channel, you know I'm a little bit so enduro. So then I did set it up in the long chainstay and the slackest head tube angle, and I preferred that for where I ride. And what I really like about the adjustable geometry is you can really set it up for your style of riding and where you ride, which I think is super important. Now onto appearance and integration. I think it's a nice looking frame, definitely love the colorway. I would prefer to have a straight down tube. That little kink there possibly makes it look a little bit dated, but overall I think it's a good looking frame. Integration, second to none. Beautiful integration. I love the display and the beautiful wireless remotes. They have to be best in class. And how the battery integrates, the motor, that overall integration is perfect. Now onto why you're all here. How does the Amflow PR ride out in the trails? Well, riders, 100% honest, when this arrived, I was a little bit disappointed. This is the first ever base model e-bike I've tested at Sam's Bikes. And I actually contacted Amflow going, maybe you've made a mistake. They're like, no, test it. We're very interested to see what you think of it. So this bike has no right to be this good for this price. Now, the suspension and the brakes are the most basic part on this bike. Brakes, completely fine. They have a rattle in the brake pads, and obviously you don't have as much adjustment as a higher level brake, but a lot of power there. And the suspension, again, you can get your baseline tune quite quickly and easily with the suspension, and a more advanced rider might be a bit disappointed that they can't do that fine tuning. But remember, this is an entry-level price. And I had to keep on telling myself that when I was riding it, because I was a bit nervous that I wasn't going to be able to push this bike that hard with base brakes and suspension. But I forgot that on the second or third ride. I was off the brakes. I was riding this just as hard as any other high-end e-bike I've tested in the past. Definitely wasn't nervous, definitely could handle everything I threw at it. One thing about setup, I think they nailed the tune on the rear shock, but on the forks here, it actually comes stock with 3 tokens. And I felt like I was sitting back off the bike. I could not get deep into the travel. So I took out 2 tokens and ended up settling with 1 token, which possibly I would put 2 now. So riders, if you're buying this bike and you can't get into the travel, you can take out the tokens. And I'd recommend maybe starting with 1 or 2, definitely not 3. Now onto trail riding. So I rode this in the stock configuration. So the middle head cup angle and the short chainstay 440. I found it very agile, very sort of poppy, and definitely what you want out of a trail bike. I also found the 23.9 kilos to be quite a planted bike, but at the same time playful. And then enduro riding, I whacked it in the long chainstay setting, which, right, if you're a fan of the channel, you'd know I always like a short chainstay, but that might be changing. With this bike, I think in the places that I like riding, where it's steeper and faster, more enduro riding trails, I like the longer chainstay, and I actually put it to the slackest head tube angle. For my style of riding and where I ride, I preferred that setup. And bike park, well, I think it can handle a bike park for maybe a couple of days a year, but just remember this is a Cat 4 frame, so it's not exactly designed for that. Jumping, fantastic jumper, didn't have any problem. When I went to bottom out, it does have that bottomless feel. And then let's go into suspension. I was very impressed with the kinematics of this bike over the original Amflow PR Carbon that I've been testing, which I found the old PR Carbon found more holes, got hung up more, where this seems to have a little bit more real axle path. And I think they just nailed that tune. And the suspension, as I said, I don't think it held me back. I think you can find that bass tune, and the more pro or the more experienced mountain biker might be a little bit frustrated not to have the high and low speed compression and the high and low speed rebound. But the bass tune, I found it very good out in the trails. And then onto climbing, and obviously the super powerful Avinox motor, you have 0 problems doing any fire road climbs, and you can actually climb up, a lot of them about 20, 25 k's an hour. There's so much power on tap here. When it gets steep, nasty, technical, the short chainstay 440, and also the 76.4 degree seat tube angle. It doesn't put you in the best position. If you want to do sort of steep, nasty climbs, I would definitely put it in the long chainstay, and also detune the motor a little bit, because when it is steep and nasty, it is hard sometimes to get that traction. Now, onto the motor and system, and we have a lot to talk about. So the Amflow PR is going to be available with two motor options. So the PR Carbon will be coming with the M2, which has 110 newton meters of torque and 1,100 watts of peak power. And in the boost mode, again, 1,100 watts of peak power and 125 newton meters of torque. And will be coming with a 4 amp charger. And the PR Carbon Pro will be coming with the M2S, which has a whopping 130 newton meters of torque and 1,500 watts of peak power. And in the boost mode, a crazy 150 newton meters of torque and 1,500 watts of peak power. And it will also be coming with a 12 amp fast charger, which can charge the 800 watt hour battery from 0 to 80% in 1 hour and 36 minutes. Now, both models, so the PR and the PR Pro, will be coming with a touchscreen display here, super beautiful display, and the beautiful wireless remotes. Also, obviously, both motors are super tunable by the Avinox app, a very sophisticated app here, so you can really tune the bike how you want to ride. They're also adding offline navigation, which is turn-by-turn navigation that you can see on your display here, which is great for going out and exploring more. And you can also pair or sync it with popular apps such as Komoot or Strava. They've also got Apple Find Mine for tracking and Smooth Shift, which is great for changing gears while you're not pedaling and just getting really smooth gears out in the trails. And also they've added this really interesting new feature which allows you to regulate the assistant of the motor by your heart rate, which I absolutely love. It's really interesting for getting a bit of fat burning out in the trails. So yeah, a lot of information there about these two new motors, but most importantly, how do they feel out in the trails? Well, I've been lucky enough to test the M2 in the PR here and the M2S in the PX. And they're nothing but fantastic. And it is an improvement in every way over the already fantastic M1 motor, which is still at the top of the game right now in the market. So both motors are super smooth in delivery, super powerful, and next to silent. And I'm happy to let you know that there is no rattle coming from either system. So with all that power, you might be thinking that it would be uncontrollable out in the mountains. You'd be wrong. There's a lot of control or modulation from this system, and that all comes down to the cadence. So let's say we're in turbo, so the highest assistant mode, and we bring our cadence almost to a stop, like we start cruising, and it actually doesn't feel like you're in turbo at all. It controls that power delivery really well. And when you start lifting your cadence up, that's where the power comes. And the peak power is coming in around 100 to 120 RPM. And I'm going to say to any unexperienced mountain bikers or new to this much power, possibly detune it a little bit, maybe down to 1,000 watts of peak in the first week or two when you're testing it, because it does take a little bit to understand that modulation and that control via your cadence. And now I'm sure you legend riders are wondering, should you splash the cash and get the M2S, so the most powerful motor, or will the M2 work just fine for you? So the major difference is the power hour. After work, on the M2S, you can smash quite a few more downhills than the M2. It is quite noticeable, that power difference. But also on the flip side, you're going to use more power, drain the battery quicker. And for that 2 or 3 hour ride, realistically, you're not going to be able to stay in those higher assistant modes. And what a perfect segue to talk about battery options and range. So the Amflow PR Carbon will be coming with the removable 800 watt hour battery. You can also get a 600 watt hour battery that you can set up as a dual battery, almost doubling your range out in the mountains. So range is a super hard thing to talk about. So many variables, different rider fitnesses, different trails, different terrain, different tire compounds, etc., etc. But This is how I've been riding the M2 and the M2S. For the power hour, unrestricted, full power, let's go. And it's a lot of fun. The M2S just, you get in a lot of downhills. Then for a 2 hour, I've been restricting the systems to 1,000 watts of peak power, and I've been using the automatic mode, and I've been having my heart rate monitor tethered to the screen here so I can see what I'm actually doing out in the trails. I try and get a workout, 120 to 140 beats per minute to burn a bit of that fat. And then for a 3 hour ride, I've been actually restricting it to 800 watts of peak power, and again in the automatic mode. It works very well. And for those types of rides, when I restrict the system to 800 watts, my heart rate around 120 to 140, and also in the automatic mode, I've been getting around 1,500 to 1,700 meters of vertical climbing, which I think is very impressive. And also riders, remember, I'm not the fittest rider out there, and I'm definitely not that unfit. So I just represent the average rider. You're fitter than me, you're gonna get more. Less fit, you're gonna get less. Now, onto above the limiter. So when you're above 25 Ks an hour in Europe, I'm gonna say there is a little bit of a drag there. I wouldn't say it's good or bad. Okay, so now for the sound test, and the noise cancellation software is turned off on the camera, so it's exactly what you're gonna hear. Let's turn the motor off. Then we go auto. Then we go eco. Then trail. Then turbo. And now boost. I wouldn't say it's exactly silent, but it's pretty hard to hear over the background sound on the trails. And now heading back down the mountain. Now onto sizing. I'm 183 centimeters on a good day, and I have been riding a large with a reach of 470 mil. Now, I am an ex-BMXer. I also like my bikes a little bit on the smaller side. I would say in 2026, 470 mil reach in a large is a little bit on the short side, but I would not be sizing up or sizing down. This is definitely the size for me. Also, I've let a couple of the riders that are in the circle of trust ride this bike, and 2 of them said they found it quite small. So my advice, definitely try and sit on one, try and ride one for your sizing. Go off the Amflow website, see what they recommend for sizing. And also, if you're a new rider, I always recommend, if you're right in between the sizing, to size up. And if you're a more advanced rider or an ex-BMXer, possibly size down, because the bikes are more playful. And if you're a fan of the channel, you'd know for the last 18 months, I've been riding the Amflow PR Carbon. So how does the new PR compare? Well, obviously we've got more power from the motor, but I didn't feel I needed much more power really. It is fun, but I didn't feel it needed it. I think the biggest improvement here is the 40 points of geometry. You can really set up your bike better. And I found it more compliant out in the trails. I think we have a stiffer rear triangle here, and also we have a more compliant and a better kinematic suspension. I think overall, it's a big improvement in those categories. Now onto pricing and models. And there'll be 2 models available. The Amflow PR Carbon, 4,499 euros, and the Amflow PR Carbon Pro, 5,899 euros. Now onto not all gravy, the things I haven't liked about the PR Carbon or I'd like to see improved. First up, I don't really like how the geometry changed between the bike models. I think it's a little bit confusing, but riders, just remember they are the exact same frames. We just have different forks, which changes the geometry slightly. The 600 watt-hour range extender is great, doubles your range almost out there in the trails. Definitely see its benefit. I don't like the fact that you have to bolt the cage on. I would like something a bit faster, sort of plug and play, more like what Specialized and Bosch offer, with like a 250 or 300 watt-hour range extender that I can slip into the water bottle holder here, use for my weekend rides, and then on my weekday rides, which are shorter, not use it and have the lighter bike. I also really don't like their stem here. It's very narrow, I don't like the aesthetics of it. And the light, as much of a benefit it is, I don't like having a light on my bike all the time. I would like it quick removal, and also I would love the Avinox light to be maybe a standard mount, so you could use another stem. The brakes, the Tetro or TRP brakes work very well. They do have enough power, but they do rattle. I don't like bikes rattling, so that would be annoying for me. And I'm gonna say, I don't think they have enough models in the lineup. So we have 2 models. I'd like to see maybe a top model, 7,000 to 8,000 with higher spec components, because I really think this bike is gonna be a top seller this year. So who is the Amflow PR Carbon for? Well, I see it's perfect for anyone looking for an entry-level bike that really gives you quite good performance. Really, out of the box, you can ride this reasonably hard. I also see it perfect for someone like myself, getting it in at, sub 5 grand. Definitely would change out the tires to Shorby tires, and I would probably change that stem out, and the brakes, and the suspension, and maybe just a little bit over 6 grand. You have a top tier build here. So I think this bike is going to sell very well this year. And riders, now on to the conclusion. I have had a fantastic time on the Amflow PR. Massive shout out for Amflow for sending it out early so I can bring you legends all the news and all the information on this bike. They have knocked it out of the park. Not only does it ride well, it definitely just, at that price point, I think this bike is going to sell out incredibly fast. And riders, like always, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I love to help. And you know what, stay safe out there, and we are going to see you soon.